All right, guys, thank you for joining us for the XRHealth webinar for disability. My name's Darren. I'm a physiotherapist, so just a little background on me. I've worked in the disability space primarily with peds for a while now. I have done a little bit of adult disability, more so I guess in the equipment prescription and some strength and conditioning aspect, but more so within the ped space with diagnosis, assessment, and I guess the equipment side of things, and also what general physiotherapists do as well. Have experience as a provider, as a physio, but also as a parent with a child with a disability. So I kind of know the disability space from both sides. I started, I guess, my work with XRHealth being interested in this VR AR space because me as a physio, I've used some virtual reality with the kids that I work with, even some of the adults, and found that it was beneficial for them. But I guess the added benefits that XR has within the platform that we use has worked a lot better for them as opposed to just generally using a video game console, which is just a game and we don't really get many measures with it. But I'll go into that a bit more with the rest of the session. I'm just going to share my screen here. 1 second, share screen. That one there. Present. All right, everyone can see that there?
Yep.
All right, great. Awesome. All right, so like I was saying before, I'm sure you guys all know because you signed up for the webinar, but the company I work for is called XRHealth. We're the Australian stream of the company. We started in the United States first, and now we've expanded here to Australia, and we're also expanding to Israel as well. We're the world's first VR, AR telehealth platform, VR meaning virtual reality and AR meaning augmented reality. That's kind of where I guess our uniqueness comes from within the telehealth, but also the virtual reality part of our company. And I'll go into that a little bit more in the rest of the session. So as I was saying before, we're the first VR, AR telehealth platform in the world. Within that, I guess it's not only that, again, like I was saying with the console games and like PlayStation, you can forget virtual reality as well. The difference between us and them is, of course, the platform we use, but we're also, I guess, medically certified with the FDA in America and then TGA in Australia. Most of it is, of course, the measurement part of things. So how we can measure range of motion and certain quality indicators within the clients that we see, but also the exercise component and how we use that within certain conditions with the virtual reality. I guess within the company as well, all our providers, we primarily work with physiotherapists, but we do have a couple of occupational therapists and psychologists on board with the team. And they're all, of course, registered with Opera here in Australia. And then in the United States and Israel would be with their own licensing body as well. So going into the platform itself, there's 3 components to it. I'll go through each one in a little bit more detail in the next coming slides. I'll just summarize it a bit here. So the first part of the platform is our extended reality applications. So that's kind of our bread and butter in a way. We started as a company that used to develop the hardware as well, so the actual headsets. But our CEO and I guess our founder in a way was able to partner with headset companies that already have a very, very good functioning headset. So in the States, we've partnered with Oculus. And then here in Australia, we've partnered with the Pico device. So we don't make the headsets anymore. I guess what we do within the company is, of course, we give participants to therapy, but we also develop the applications for therapists to use. I'll go into a little bit of what the applications are and what we use them for later on in the presentation. Number 2 is our advanced data analytics. So this is the part that I guess attracted me to XR the most. And I'll go into it a bit more, like I said before with the first point. But basically with this part of things, when we get our participants, the NDIS, for example, disability, to use the applications that we have, we can track down everything from how long they spent in a session to how far they moved in a session in terms of the range of motion. And I'll go into it a bit more. the last part of it is our external control. So with our external control, it allows our therapist to basically control the headset device from anywhere and everywhere. So the participant can be at home, they can be at school, they can be at work, wherever they have a working internet connection, and our therapist can connect to their device while they're in session with them to control the session, or even just update the settings for them if they're finding things too easy or too hard. So again, going into point one, our extended reality applications. This is kind of where our I guess our unique point is within the NDIS space. Me being a physio and working with disability, the hardest thing that I found was that a lot of the time it was hard to get our patients, the kids, and even the adults to engage with the therapy that I gave them to do at home primarily. In clinic, it was pretty easy. I could set up an obstacle course. I can make the exercises really fun, but when they're doing it at home, it's hard for them to do it the same way I would, because they might not have the equipment. They might not have the resources. I guess their parents might not have the time to set it up the right way. So it's really hard for them to find the exercises engaging. And a lot of the time I'd see them maybe weekly or fortnightly, and they'd come back the next week and said, nah, didn't do the exercises at all. So our progress would be really halted. With the applications that we have at XR, we found that it's the opposite. We're actually finding that our patients and our NDIS participants have found it easier to do their exercises because the applications are so fun, immersive, and easy to use as well. So as the slide says here, we have multiple immersive medical applications enabling cognitive, physical, and mental measurement and training. So everything's fun, everything is engaging, and everything is easy to use. The next part that's like I said is what attracted me the most is the advanced data analytics. This is kind of, I guess, within the participants, yes, they find this interesting, but I guess in the NDIS stream, us as providers, and I guess you guys as support coordinators, even parents of kids with disability, you might find this interesting as well, because basically with the applications that we get our participants to use, we can see, like I said before, anything from how many sessions they've done during the week, if they've done it multiple times per day, once per week, maybe once in a month, and we can see even how much time they spent in each application as well. You can kind of see from the images there. You can look at the data from session to session. We can look at it over a period of time. So from the initial session to maybe the review date, right? That way, when it comes to NDIS review time, we can literally print out the data, put it in a spreadsheet for you guys, or even put it in a little bit of a case study to send to the NDIS so that they can see that the participant has been using or are engaging in the therapy as they were planned to during their initial planning meeting. So what we found with this is that the NDIS has really loved it, because as you guys know, the NDIS loves those physical measures, those measures that they can see on paper, and this shows them exactly that. So in a way, we found that most of our participants have been getting their funding exactly how they have the last year, or maybe even more, sometimes less, because they haven't been engaging as they should have. But the ones that have been engaging, because the NDIS was able to see that the sessions are there, they're doing the time, the range of motion is getting better, their strength measurements are tracking the right way as well. Even certain things like quality indicators, how fast they move, how smoothly they move, which shows their proprioception, their coordination, their upper limb function as well. They can all see all those things on paper, which shows the NDIS that now, yes, okay, their funding is being put to good use, and they do require the same additional funding, or maybe even more, because they're seeing the progress is going really well. And if the participant gets more funding, they can participate with us more, which means they'll get even better results on their next plan. So with our data portal or data analytics, we can, again, the participant can see how well they're doing. We can see how well they're doing. The NDIS can see how well they're doing. And then you guys, some of you are support coordinators, can also see how well the participants are going also. Any questions on that at all, guys? Either the applications, I kind of rushed through the applications part, but the applications and the data analytics, any questions just yet? I'll have a time for questions at the end as well. All right, yeah, Ashley?
How many apps do you have to keep the patients engaged?
So we have around 9 applications currently. We continue developing more and more as we go. But as you guys know, app development isn't that easy. So right now we have, I guess, 9 standard ones that we've been using. If you wanted any more, I'll go a little bit into, I guess, what the apps target within disability and what certain measures we can target the apps to track and to treat. But if you wanted any more specific information on the applications themselves, then I can send you some more info on the apps at the end of the presentation, if you'd like. Yeah. Any questions on the data portal at all? All right, great. Question?
No, none from me.
Okay, perfect. All right. So the last part of the platform here, as we can see, is our external control. So with the external control, this is kind of again a unique selling point of our therapy. With it, we can adjust, us as therapists can adjust the experience and settings based on the patient's condition and progress. So like I said before, wherever the patient is for their session, whether it be from the comfort of their own home, at their workplace, literally anywhere, us as therapists can connect into their headset to change their settings. So what we found within our NDIS participants is this is great because a lot of the time we have, I guess, some participants that find it difficult to set things up. With this, their carer can put on the headset. We can, I guess, change the settings with the carer having the headset on, and then they can transition the headset to the actual participant, and then they can just go ahead and start the application. When we put the settings during the session that we're doing, those settings are automatically basically stay there unless it's changed by the participant or anyone else that might be using the headset. But the beauty with the external control, like I said before, is so we can change the settings, we can change the speed, we can even change things like volume and the music that the participant is listening to while they're doing the applications, and then other, I guess, parameters that are modifiable within the applications, and it can all be done by us. And if the participant, I guess, if they even accidentally change the settings on our next session, we can change the settings back again. So that's our external control. All right, so I guess XRHealth and the NDIS. I'll go into the next slide right away. So basically, currently, we can only really service participants that are either self-managed or plan-managed. We're in the process of being registered with the NDIS, but again, it's a bit of a long process. So we're in the stages of getting that done, but right now we're really only servicing those patients that are self-managed or plan-managed. In regards to the funding, I guess, is, as you guys know, our therapy itself goes under the capacity building support stream. And I guess whatever hours you have for physio, OT, and speech, I'm not sure if you guys know, but all of those are transferable between each other. So even if in your plan, you told your plan manager that, oh, I want a certain number of hours for OT, if you don't use them all for OT, it can be put for physio. Same thing with speech, same thing with any other allied health service that you got into your plan. Beforehand, I think it was a year ago, you can only really get like funding for each one, and it had to stay within each allied health stream. But now they've made it a bit more flexible. So even if you've already used all your physiotherapy funding, you can actually use some of your OT, speech, or any other allied health service funding to fund your physiotherapy. So I guess it's something, I guess you guys as participants, if you are a participant, it's something to ask your support coordinator or even your local area coordinator to see if you have any funding for physio. Or again, if you guys are support coordinators, I'm sure you'd know how to kind of navigate that stream with things. Any questions on that at all? All right, great. All right, so what we can help in a way. So in terms of the applications that we use, like I said, a lot of our applications are geared towards, we have a lot that help with upper limb conditions. We have some that help with memory, short-term memory, cognition, others that help with stress management, pain management, even anxiety and PTSD or certain other mental health conditions. I guess it's very broad. This slide is very broad here, but I'll go through it a bit and then I'll kind of describe in what way we treat those things. So in terms of the stress and pain management treatment, most of our apps work towards distraction, self-regulation, mindfulness, and guided breathing to help people manage their stress and pain. When I say pain, we do mean some of those acute pain conditions, but I guess with disability, we're always talking about chronic pain or pain that comes and goes, but has been doing that for a number of years. Within that, we have applications that help with pain management. Like I have one patient that I'm treating right now that has inclusion body myositis. So with her condition, she's losing muscle mass as she ages. But of course, with that, because she doesn't have the muscle mass there, she has a lot of pain associated with joints and things of that sort. So we have a lot of our applications that help her modulate her pain, even if temporary. She has some pain relief throughout the day as opposed to not having any at all. We also have some applications that work for stress and anxiety. So again, we have a lot of clients in our books that have autism or even some sort of mental health condition that comes with anxiety and stress. With our applications, we've actually been able to help our participants reduce their anxiety and stress through exactly what I described there: mindfulness, guided breathing, some cognitive behavioral training, and some, what was our last one again? Just some meditative, I guess, practices as well. Within cognition, so we use things like attention, awareness, judgment, thinking, planning and execution, learning and memory as well. So this is more so, I guess, geared towards our neurological conditions. So anyone with a traumatic brain injury, cerebral palsy, spina bifida, Down syndrome, or anything, like I said before, that's neural related, dementia, Parkinson's, anything of that sort. Yeah, so we have a couple of apps that work directly on their cognition and I guess help with kind of that brain exercise part of things. The next part here, we help with motor conditions as well. So again, this includes things like cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, or anything with sort of gross motor deficits. We don't have many applications for fine motor deficits. And as you know, that's more of the occupational therapy side of things. But we do have applications that do help a lot with the gross motor deficits that you usually see in a lot of disability conditions. So within the applications that we use, things like range of motion, response time, smoothness and efficiency. Let me just admit this person here. Hi, Sue. Just wait for Sue to come in. Hi, Sue. Just let me know, I guess, in the middle of the presentation if you had any questions at all. So we're just in the, I guess, the XRHealth treatment focused part of things. So within our motor component, like I was saying before, mostly treating those conditions that have gross motor deficits. But within this, like with our data portal and in our applications, we can train things like range of motion. So helping improve range of motion, helping improve things like response time, smoothness and efficiency of movement, peak velocity, things like coordination, bilaterally and unilaterally, even things like proprioception, strength and conditioning, and endurance as well. And I guess on our social side of things, we look at, so what's interesting with that is a lot of the time we have a lot of participants that have been presenting with certain social, psychosocial, I guess, goals and psychosocial issues or conditions as well. And a lot of their goals, I guess, are geared towards social participation. We have one of our applications that I'll just describe right now that's called the Connect app. We've been able to use it with a couple of our autism, our participants with autism. A lot of their goals, I guess, are towards being out in the social, being more social and being out in the community a bit more, but they get a lot of anxiety towards that, which of course comes with autism. They find it difficult to socialize, so they kind of develop an anxiety around that, or autism just comes with an anxious, with an anxiety, I guess, stream with it as well. So we found that a lot of our PEDS participants that have autism and have the goal of social participation have been using this Connect app. And with the Connect app, we can basically get participants in a room together, at least 10 of them, or at most 10 of them, with our practitioner like myself, and we basically get them to just socialize with each other. We can play games, we can watch videos. I can even do little presentations or sketches with them as well. And we found that it's a good stepping stone for them from going to being, I guess, at home all the time to then having a goal of being out in society and community. They find that really anxious, but the stepping stone of being, I guess, within the virtual space and interacting, I guess, as avatars, and I guess they can interact when they want to as well. It's a good stepping stone for them to then transition to participating and I guess being involved socially in an actual live person group. So we found that a lot of our kids and even the parents have said, yeah, it's great because suddenly they don't feel anxious. And even the kids said, awesome, I don't, because I'm only looking at an avatar, because I can interact when I want to. It's a lot less daunting for me, and they feel a little bit more motivated to go out in the real world as well, which I find amazing in a way, and of course they find amazing as well. Any questions around that, guys? Or any questions at all?
Can participants use the apps outside of the appointments?
Yeah. So with the applications, of course, when we're doing our initial virtual reality appointment, that's the first time they're able to use it, and they have to use it with us that time. Ooh. Sorry, something came up here. Everyone can hear me? Yep. But when they're not using it with us, they can use it themselves as much as they want. We're only there in the appointments, I guess, to change the settings if they're getting better, change the settings if it's not working for them, making it, I guess, easier, making it harder. But once they go out of the session with us, they can use it as many times per day as they want, as many times per week as they want, as long as they want as well. Usually with our sessions, so after they see us and we give them the applications that we want them to use, we send them over something called a plan of care, which is pretty much a schedule to show them how often they need to use the apps, how much time, what settings to have it at as well. And of course, if they wanted to use it more, then they can use it more, as long as we've told them they're okay to use it more. Of course, when it comes to those painful conditions, I guess it's good for them to kind of follow the advice that we give them, because if they use it more and their pain is exacerbated, then again, we're going backwards as opposed to going forwards. But anything that I guess is exercise related, where they're trying to improve their range, their strength, their coordination, the more they use it, the better, right? Like if I have someone that I'm seeing in clinic, for example, in person, and I give them an exercise program, let's say I get them to lift weights, let's say do bicep curls, and that's the exercise that I give them. I tell them to do it 3 days a week. If they do it 5 days a week, then that's not too bad either, because now they're getting more out of it anyways. So yeah, they can use the applications whenever they want. Yeah. All right, we'll go to the next slide here. So I kind of described most of the conditions that we work with. This is, again, it's not a full list of things, but these are the ones that I guess we've recently worked with, or ones that we've worked with the most. So conditions like cerebral palsy, again, working on their gross motor deficits, cognitive factors as well, things like head control. We have one application called Rotate that we found that's worked really, really well to help people with head control, which is, again, one of those things when you're GMFCS level 4 or 5. So that just means the cerebral palsy affects you a lot. Again, head control is one of those big factors that limits your independence in a way. And we found some of our apps has actually helped with that. So that's great. Things like ADHD. So with ADHD, that's another interesting one. We've actually in process of developing an application called Attention, which is geared towards treating the hyperactivity and the impulsivity part of ADHD. With that, we're kind of coordinating a trial for ADHD. So again, if any of you, I guess, if you're a participant with ADHD, or you have any participants with ADHD, we do have an application geared specifically towards that. And then things like autism spectrum disorder, Down syndrome, muscular dystrophy, mental health, spina bifida, stroke, global developmental delay, and developmental coordination disorder. And again, that's not an exhaustive list of things, but It's basically anything that involves gross motor deficits, both upper limb, lower limb, mental health conditions, or anything that involves any cognitive factors. So neurological conditions or things like stroke, TBI, dementia, Parkinson's, that would have affected their cognitive functions. Any questions on that at all, guys? All right. All right, so what makes us different? I've gone through this a bit already. Number one, and I think this is the most important point, is that our treatments are fun, interactive, and engaging. So like I said before, a lot of my clients that I have right now have found that working with XR and the exercises that we give them makes it easier for them to do the exercises because they're so fun and interactive, as opposed to them doing it within a brick and mortar practice where, yes, it can be fun while they're in the session with the physio, but then once they're out of physio, they might not have the equipment at home. They might find the exercises boring, so they don't really do it outside of their physiotherapy. Did you have a question, Sue, at all?
Yeah, keep going. I can ask you it later.
Okay, that's all right. So it makes it very engaging and fun for them. And what we found, it makes it easier for the parents as well. So me being, I guess, a therapist that works, it's not only working with the child, but it's also working for the parents. And even with the adults, it's working with the carers of the parents, the carers of the adult as well, if they have a carer, of course. That they found it that they don't have to really hassle to try to get the exercises done. And in a way that their kids and I guess that the participants are doing the exercises in their own accord, right? Or they're even asking to use the headset, as opposed to, I guess, even me with my daughter, half the time I have to force her to do the exercises because if it's up to her, she wouldn't do them ever. But with the headset, she actually enjoys and asks for the headset to do the exercises, which is great. Second point here, so again, it's easy to manage and track the exercise programs. Like I said before, with our data portal that we use, we can see exactly how much time they've spent in doing their exercises, how much time they've done the exercises, how many times per week they've been doing it. We can see how their range of motion is improving, how their endurance is improving, certain things, like I said, like smoothness of movement, coordination, speed. We can even see, I guess, if they're using their left hand more so than their right hand. With their neck, we can see if they're looking to the left more than the right. We can even see things like if they're using the application and most of the time their arm is up here, or it's here, or it's here. So all those little factors we can see with our data portal. And equally enough, and another thing that our participants has really liked is they can see it as well, right? So they're not coming into an appointment waiting for the therapist to tell them if they're going better. They themselves can see if they're going better and how better they're going as well. Number 3, so our flexible appointment times. So because we're a telehealth company and we work through an avenue like this, we have a lot of flexibility around when appointments can be scheduled, how late, how early. So again, me working at brick and mortar practice, I found that a lot of the time parents or even participants want the appointments either before school or after school, because during the day they prefer the child to go to school, of course. But of course, we only have a certain number of appointments that we can schedule during those times. At XR, basically we have therapists that work all days of the week, Monday through Sunday, and then all hours of the week as well. So I guess depending on what times the participants need, we can of course pair them with a therapist that will be able to suit their times. And that can be as late as they want it or as early as they want it, or even on weekends as well if they'd like a weekend. Any questions on those points at all? No? All right. Yeah, go ahead, Sue. Yeah.
Oh, maybe you're getting onto it. I was just thinking, if we wanted to target it around something specific, like being able to ride a bike,
yeah,
is that possible? I mean, I know there's a whole lot of underlying skills with that, but if that was our ultimate goal.
Yeah. So yes, completely. In a way, so again, the beauty with it is, yes, the virtual reality applications are mostly, I guess, geared towards the upper limb stuff right now. But of course, with us being physios, OTs as well, we do understand the lower limbs also, especially as physios. So even if we're only using the VR applications for the upper limb stuff, which for riding a bike, there would be an upper limb component to it. We would also be able to do, I guess, tailored exercises for the lower limb outside of the virtual reality applications as well. We are looking towards developing some lower limb applications also. And I guess even with our upper limb stuff, like we have one app called Balloon Blast, which I guess the participant is made to pop some balloons while they're using the application. Sometimes I get certain participants, if they have goals for upper limb and lower limb, like improving their lower limb balance or lower limb coordination, I'll get them to stand up while they're doing the application. They can go like on a pillow or a cushion so that they're working on their balance, or they can go feet together, feet apart, one leg, both legs, depending, of course, on how good their coordination is. But yes, so things like bike riding. Yeah, so I have one participant that I just saw today, actually, and one of his goals is to ride his bike again. He has difficulties with his right upper limb. So with him, we're working towards getting his upper limb functioning a bit well. And I guess with the applications, we can look at how smooth his movement is, how well he was able to coordinate things, how well he was able to pop or hit certain things within the apps. And with that, we can then go, all right, you're probably ready to try out the bike because it looks like your upper limb is functioning really well. And you should be able to coordinate those movements and turn left, turn right, keep the handlebars straight, right? Yeah, so yes, things like that, we can make it super specific, yeah, with things. Right, I'll go into point 4 and 5. Is that all right, Sue? Yeah. Okay, awesome. So point 4. So again, like I was saying to Sue here, so our plans or rehab plans are tailored and disability specific, designed to help achieve whatever NDIS goals the participants had, right? So I know with NDIS goals, usually the local area coordinators or the NDIS planners make them very broad so that the participants can, I guess, get as much funding within their plan as possible. With XR, of course, we try to gear our rehab plans towards those goals, but also make it a lot more specific and smart, depending on what the participant wants, right? Or what their goals are, whether it be, like I said, some of our participants is to increase or reduce their anxiety and stress around social participation. Some of them, like I have one, we'll go through a case study next, that one of his goals was, yes, become more active, but also lose weight and improve his gross motor skills. Other people, like I said, the one that I had today, his goal was to, one of his goals was to be able to ride a bike. Another one was to be able to play soccer again. And then another one was to be able to use his kayak a lot more efficiently because he's finding it hard to use his kayak. So yeah, our plans can be specific towards their goals and then specific towards their NDIS goals as well. Point 5 here, again, because of the data portal, we can let other practitioners like the GPs, neurophysicians, support coordinators, plan managers, NDIS planners have a greater insight into the progress of the patient. So with the data portal itself, like I said before, it has very specific measurements that we can then put on paper so that everyone can see it. Equally enough, it doesn't really have to be put on paper because the participant themselves have an application that shows how well they're tracking within the applications themselves, right? So they have, with the headset that they receive, they can also download the XRHealth application to their phone, and it allows them to track all their data through their phone or tablet if they'd like as well. And they get their own login as well. Yeah. And then, like I said, I was saying before, we can make detailed NDIS progress and review reports. You'll kind of see an example with the next one, the next couple of slides that we have here, just showing a case study that we had. So this is a case study on one of our participants that we had. Of course, it's non-identifiable. Joshua's not the real name, but we'll call him Joshua. He was 14 years old, and he came in with a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder level 2, PTSD, some sensory processing issues. but as well as gross motor skills deficit, which usually comes with ASD itself. So with him, he had experienced reduced physical activity over the last couple of years due to reduced social and community participation. So with him, he was kind of a hermit. So he's been homeschooled. He was pulled out of school due to some issues as well. So he was just at home all the time. But he lost all his friends, didn't have any friends during that time, and hasn't had any communication with basically anyone outside of his family for the last couple of years. So one of his goals was, I want to be able to go back out into the community. He's getting older. So another goal that he had was weight loss, because he said he wants to find a girlfriend. So one of his goals was to lose weight so that he can meet a girl, pretty much, which I found pretty awesome for him. Because he wanted to develop a bit more confidence. And of course, he wanted to get better. He used to play soccer and a lot of sports, but because of the PTSD and some other issues that he had, he got out of that as well and became completely sedentary. So Joshua, XR licensed therapist, has been treating him with an aim to progress his NDIS plan goals of receiving support to help manage his abilities and anxieties and to help build his gross motor skills to help him increase his independence. So again, we set short and long-term goals with him, set around, I guess, his NDIS plan goals, the goals that he set with his support coordinator, and then ones that he had himself, like I mentioned before, meeting a girl and losing weight. So with him, we were seeing him twice a week. And the applications that we were using was Balloon Blast, Rotate, and Color Match. So Balloon Blast is one that works on general upper limb coordination, but also some endurance and strength. Color Match is kind of a boxing application, which again works on upper limb coordination, strength, endurance, and just in general cardiovascular endurance as well. And then Rotate was just one he wanted to use, not one that he really needed to use too much, but he just found it fun and engaging. And again, if he finds it fun and engaging and he's doing more movement, then all the better. So in terms of limitations that he presented with, like I said before, he had some reduced muscle strength, reduced cardiovascular endurance. He was sedentary and he had some hypermobility, along with, I guess, the psychosocial issues that he was presenting with, like stress and anxiety within that PTSD spectrum. So again, patient reports having anxiety with interacting with lots of people or communicating and keeping conversation going with non-family members. One benefit, of course, him engaging with me. I'm a non-family member. Him getting comfortable with that, of course, is meeting some of that goal of being able to communicate with others that aren't within the family. At first, we started communicating. So at first, he didn't want to communicate directly with me. It was more so through his mom. And I get that a lot in therapy even as well, where the parent comes into the session. And most of the time I try to communicate with the child, but the child just looks to the parent to communicate. Luckily enough, after the first couple of sessions, mom just said, you can log on to the session and speak to Darren, because mom had to work. So within the last couple of sessions that we've seen each other, he's actually been the one that's been logging on, doing the session with myself without any aid of his mom and his older brother, which has been great. And he's been communicating pretty much, he's been a chatterbox now, as opposed to when he first started, when he was just kind of very quiet and reserved. So again, patient reports reduced ability to perform exercise to a great degree due to being unfit. So with him, we've had around, so this was done a couple of weeks ago, but when this was done, we did around 12 sessions with a clinician, and then he had done 3 independent sessions since that time. Of course, this is probably a couple of weeks back, so this is doubled now since then, and he's doing a lot more independent sessions himself as well. We can kind of look at his goals and what we've achieved within the last couple of weeks. So one thing that was amazing is that we were able to get some weight loss with him, which is great. And this is because he's been using the application so much that he's been getting that weight loss effect from it anyways. So even though I got him to use it, like I told him, start with 3 days a week and then slowly bring it up. He's been using it 3 times a day now. And he's had a weight loss of around 6 kilos, which is great. And he feels a lot more confident. And because he feels a lot more confident, it makes him even more engaged with the therapy itself. So you can see there, he's reported increased function. Beforehand, when we first started, he was getting out of breath with a lot of the applications, and he was sweating pretty profusely because he had been so sedentary for so long. But now that he's getting in tune with the exercises, he's getting less shortness of breath, and he's able to use the applications for longer amounts of time. As I told you, he's, instead of using it once a day, now he's using it 3-4 times a day. Because it's fun and engaging, he has his own, I guess, motivation and desire to continue using XRHealth for ongoing maintenance and wellness. Again, what mom said was, it's great because I don't have to force him to do the exercises. He just gets up and does it by himself. And even when he's beforehand, he'd be on the computer for 12 hours straight. Now we're actually finding that he takes breaks so that he can do his exercises, which is amazing. And mom has she's really, really happy, I guess, with that outcome. And again, so consistently high engagement and compliance with the virtual reality technology, and he finds it fun and engaging, which is the most important part as well. In terms of, like I said before, he lost 6 kilos within, I guess, these quality indicators that we measured with him. His response time, so that just means how quickly he was able to respond to certain things that appear on the screen. With that, I guess, in terms of physio, what we're looking for, if the response time has increased, that means his coordination has increased, his proprioception has increased, his efficiency of using his muscles has increased, his muscle mass has probably increased as well, because he's using them a lot more efficiently and a lot more, I guess, a lot more quickly. His power has increased, his endurance has increased as well, just by looking at that response time measure. And it's the same thing with that quality of movement, right? So quality of movement just measures how well they were able to move within the application, depending on the targets that appeared, depending on the application itself. And of course, that shows us how well their coordination, proprioception, gross motor skills have increased also. That's pretty much it for me. Any questions at all, guys?
Darren, because I missed the start, I'm not sure. I was just wondering what families actually have to purchase to be able to do it.
Yeah, so that's a good question itself. So the only thing that the participants pay for is the session itself. So there's no purchase cost for the headset. There's no purchase for the headset, the shipping and handling cost for the headset to be sent over to them. That's all included in the appointment cost itself. And I guess I could go into it a bit. So in terms, are you interested in, I guess, finding the cost as well, Sue?
Yeah, look, I guess as you've been chatting, I've been writing down all sorts of different clients I see, older and younger. So, yeah, I guess I'd be interested to know how we could even learn more about it in this, like we're in a remote rural community. So, cost of sessions, how the process goes with assessing people, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, perfect. So in terms of costs, I guess, we are at a lower price point than the general NDIS rates. I think in rural it's higher, but me, I guess, only working within large cities, our rates are $193.99. I think it's a bit higher in the rural communities, Sue, if I'm correct.
No, you'd only get 193.99.
Okay, so still that 193.99. Yeah, okay. So same thing then. So even though the NDIS rates is 193.99 per hour, our rates are 150 per hour and then 115 per 45-minute sessions. So we're lower than those price points. Well, we found that a lot of our support coordinators that we work with and parents that we work with really like as well, because their funding goes a longer way. So as opposed to getting 24 hours of funding at the 193 rate, they can get a lot more hours because we're only charging the 150 rate for them.
And if someone's not on the NDIS?
If someone's not in the NDIS, then the price point changes, of course. It depends if they have private health funding, then of course, depending on what private health they have, their coverage would be a little bit different. We do have, I'll send you a link at the end of this, Sue, which shows all the price points, I guess, for non-NDIS, NDIS, non-private, and private participants, because it also changes with whatever state they're in as well. Because we service all of Australia, depending on, I guess, the price points in certain states, the prices do change, but I can send you a link on that anyways.
Okay.
Just to kind of give you a rough overview of the price points depending on the state that the participants are in. Yeah.
So is there any way at assessment of being able to determine this is a good client for, I see children of all sorts of ages and I see adults. I guess I'm trying to work out who is this going to be?
Who would be appropriate? Yeah. So I guess you're a support coordinator, Sue?
I'm an OT.
OT, okay, you're an OT. Okay, so you as an OT can, I guess, have the conversation with us Like you can have a conversation with the office team to say, this is what the client is presenting with. Will they be appropriate with for the XRHealth platform? And then if they can't answer, then of course they can get you in contact with us. So me or any other therapist that we have. Equally enough, even then, we always have an initial appointment to assess. So do a subjective assessment to get all the information we need on the participant. We do an objective assessment to get those measurements as well. And then, of course, we go through a list of contraindications to make sure they can use the headset themselves as well. And I guess those contraindications are things like previous seizure disorders, any active hallucinations or psychosis, things like undiagnosed neurological type symptoms. And I guess everything under the sun when it comes to spine disorders that haven't really been assessed by a physician. But if they have had that assessment already, like for example, today I had one participant that presented with a traumatic brain injury. And of course, he has some things in there, like he's had seizures, but he hasn't had one in a long time. But he's had clearance from his general practitioner before he came to us to tell us, yes, he can use a VR headset. He's safe to use it. So any of those things, we can chat with them during the initial session. And then if they do need clearance, then it's just them going to the GP and saying, hey, this is what the therapist is planning to do with me. Can I use it or can I not use it?
Yeah. And are most of the activities child focused, or you're seeing adults as well?
No, we see adults as well. Like for example, like the guy that I saw today, he's 40 years old. Okay. But again, they even find it fun because it's suddenly a game that they're playing instead of them doing TheraBand exercises where they're just doing this for 10 reps, 3 sets, right? They can use so like for him, for example, we have one application, like the boxing application that I said. I have him using it with the TheraBand at the same time. That way he's working on his shoulder function, upper limb function, but in a game capacity. And within that, he's beating his score. He's looking at how fast he moved. He's looking at how slow he moved. He's looking at how many targets he missed, how many targets he was able to hit. And again, he even said, yes, I prefer to do this as opposed to what my other physio gave me, where it's just doing this 10 times, 3 sets a day, for however many times per week that they asked him to do it. So yeah. Okay. So the gamification we find works for the kids and the adults because they find it a lot more fun.
Yep. Okay.
Anything else at all? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Is there a minimum age for participants?
So right now, we only, for the virtual reality applications, we only really cater towards 10 and above. Anything lower, we can see them for telehealth. But that's even like 6 and above for telehealth assessments. And that's only because of the safety aspect of it. Just because if they throw the controller, then of course they can break something or they can break the remote, or if they're running around with the headset on, then of course they won't be able to see and they might bump into things. So we just decided that 10 is kind of the cutoff point for it currently. Yeah. Any other questions at all?
Darren, I guess you sent a expression of interest to our local support group. Yeah. And I just wondered if we had a group of people, like a group of participants or families that wanted to learn more, is it best to just do this online link? The
webinar? Yeah. So they can sign up for the webinar and then they can learn more that way for sure. I mean, if they wanted to, if they already went, oh, wow, I'm keen, can I talk to someone to see if they would be a right fit for this, then it'd probably them getting directly in contact with us. That way we can try to see if we can get them on board that way. But if they just want any general information, then this would be the best platform. But if they're already keen and want to try it out because they've tried everything under the sun and nothing's worked, or they want something a bit different, then of course they can talk directly to us. And then we can, of course, gauge if they'd be right for the platform, and then get an appointment booked for them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So if you wanted more information at all, just let me know. I can send you more things on the more detailed I guess, documents on the applications themselves, just so you can see what the applications are and how we use them and what settings we can change. Especially you, Sue, as an OT, you're probably interested in seeing what things we can measure and what things as a therapist we can gauge in the participant, of course. And I can send that for sure. And then I can also send other info on, I guess, what disabilities we work with and any other case studies we have if you're interested in that as well. Yeah,
that sounds good. I guess I originally heard of this kind of thing in treating phobias with children with ASD, and I haven't been able to find anybody who does that. So I guess it would be, it's interesting. Yeah,
it is. And like I said, even with the phobia part of things, it's like a lot of time with ASD, as you know, there's that social phobia. So we have had some good outcomes with the kids that have a little bit of that social phobia, and using that Connect app and interacting with other kids with autism as well has helped them with those social phobias. So it's great in that aspect. And even, I guess, within that, like, we do take a lot of feedback from participants, parents, other providers to see in what way we can develop other apps that would help for other conditions in a way. Like, one example is with our kids with cerebral palsy, like example, my daughter, she uses an eye gaze device. So she uses a Liberator to communicate. So of course with her, we have to focus on her eye gaze and get her better with her eye functioning. And one thing that we're trying to get within our Rotate application is the way for us to then measure how well they were able to track things in the application with their eyes, right? Because that's one thing we went, that would be awesome. Even me as a physio, I went, that would be awesome if we can track eye movement as well, because that gives us a little bit more, I guess, room to work with our kids that have like a GMFCS level 5, basically cerebral palsy condition, because their head control is not good. So of course they wouldn't be able to use the headset for head control, but they can suddenly use it for their eye control to help with their communication if they're planning to use an eye gaze device.
So if we were going into a new NDIS plan and I was wanting to say, I think this is worth investigating, is there a certain number of sessions you would be saying would be a good starting point?
So what we usually when we start them off, we like doing, basically, we always do 2 within the first week, just because we need to do that initial assessment to make sure they're appropriate. And then we go through some exercises and some things with them, see them on the second appointment. Usually they have their headset by that time. Sometimes they don't. So depending on that, we'll do 2 sessions a week. And then once they get their headset, for them to get on top of things, like I'll give you an example with the kids that I have with autism, it took them around 2-3 weeks to get on top of using the applications and knowing where everything was. So there I saw them twice a week for 45-minute sessions for the first 2-3 weeks. And then now we've kind of backed off to 1 session a week. And even, I guess, within that, once they get comfortable with things, then we can space out the sessions a little bit more. But I usually say, 2 sessions a week for the first 2-3 weeks. And then after that, we can space them out to once a week for however much they want, right? And I guess it depends on their funding, right? Like I have my lady that I have with inclusion body myositis, she only got 24 hours on her plan. But again, we were able to extend it a bit more because of our sessions, because our sessions are a lot cheaper. She was able to fit a lot more. So again, I saw her twice a week for 2 weeks, and then now we're seeing each other weekly. And she likes it that way, because again, she can touch base. I can let her know how she's going. And I guess we can progress things a bit more for her. And I guess the kids with autism, and there goes the social participation and even communication with non-family members. The mom wanted them to see us weekly or even more than weekly, because then they're seeing more people outside of the house, which they're going to keep up with those skills instead of, I guess, coming back into themselves and I guess going back into that hermit mode. So in a way, we're flexible with things. And it depends how many hours the participant wants as well, or how much their funding allows them. Like, again, another example is my guy today with a TBI injury. He's already seen a physiotherapist for gait retraining. So he said, I'd only like 1 session a week. So we went, all right, we'll just start with 1 session a week then, because that's all you can really fit into your plan. So it really depends on them and I guess what therapy they've had there before and what their goals are in a way. Yeah, awesome. Any other questions at all?
Sorry, me again. I just wanted
go
to
ahead,
check.
Sue. Yeah.
You mentioned the webinar. Is this the webinar you're talking about, or is there something else families can sign into just to have a look?
This is the same webinar. Yeah. So this could be the same one. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have it up and they can just register for it. And then, yeah, we can do a presentation for them to give them a general understanding of it. Just if you do have families that are interested, at the start of the session, I do like everyone to kind of let me know what space they're involved in. That way I know how many, I guess, are parents that are looking for information or therapists looking for information or support coordinators looking for information. I can, I guess, gear some questions or the slides that I have to them as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Any questions, Ashley, at all? No? All right.
I think you covered all mine. Thank you.
All right, great. All right. Well, I guess if you guys don't have any more questions, I can send you some more information for sure. And then if you have any clients you're already thinking of that you feel like might be appropriate for this or may be interested in this and you want to, I guess, find out a bit more information for them, just let me know. I'll send you, I guess, an email with we have you guys' email here. It would have been in the registration form, I think, anyways. And I guess we can I can send you that information on the applications that might be appropriate for them, and I guess how we can help them in a way. But yeah, all right, great. Thanks for joining me today. Go ahead, Sue, if you had any questions.
No, I just want to say thanks. I'd be keen to chat with you about some specific people.
Awesome, great. So I'll get in touch with you, Sue, and then same thing with you, Ashley, as well. Great. So we'll end it here. Thank you for stopping by, and then have a good rest of your night. See you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.